Hey guys, what's up? It's Drone Sparky here. So today I'm going to be doing a repair on my destroyed Samsung Galaxy Note 8 phone. As you could see, the screen is completely shattered on the front, and if we take off the case, we can see the back is also shattered. This happened when I jumped on my bed and I heard a pop in my pocket, and I shattered the front screen of the phone, and then I shattered the back when trying to take it off to do a replacement earlier. This will be quite an expensive repair because the front screen usually costs around $150 to $170, but the rest of the parts that I'll be replacing, such as the back battery, and I'll also be putting in a new S Pen because mine broke, those will be quite cheap. So while repairs for Samsung phones can be kind of harder because you have to remove the back and it's stuck on really well due to the waterproofing seal, you don't have to use as many parts. So you only use one screwdriver. They only have one type of screw in the phone. A spudger, one of these like lift picks for the back, a SIM ejector tool to take your SIM card out, and a pair of tweezers. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking off the back, and since I've done this before, I don't really have to use the pick tool for this. I can basically just pry it up with my fingernail. This is already destroyed, so I don't really have to be that careful with it. Just gently lift it up. It's cracking a little bit more. And the thing for the rear fingerprint sensor just lifts off the phone usually. I'm also going to make sure to turn off the phone, so let me do that. So I would highly suggest getting something to organize your screws, even though a lot of them are the same in this phone, so I'll just use this thing that came with the screen. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to be doing is removing the 16 screws that are in the back, and all of these screws are identical, so I don't have to organize these. Now that we've removed all 16 of those screws, we can now lift off this top plate here. And attached to this top plate is the wireless charger. And we could just set this aside. Next thing I'm going to be doing is disconnecting the battery. I could do this with a spudger. And I'm going to lift the battery out of the phone. There's actually no more adhesive on this because I lifted it out before, so it's going to be quite easy to take it out. And I'm going to set this aside. Next, I can remove this bottom plate from the phone, set this aside. And the next thing I'm going to want to do is start disconnecting a lot of these pieces. I'm going to do this because I want to remove the main motherboard of the phone here. I'm also going to want to remove this screw right here. There's only one of these screws that holds down the motherboard because the majority of the other screws are what hold down everything else in the phone. This screw I will want to keep separate though because it's different, but it's a different color, so let's put that there. Next, I should be able to lift the motherboard out of the phone. To make this easier, I will disconnect the front sensors from the motherboard, but I'll just reconnect them right after this. Oh, and I completely forgot to do this earlier, but I should totally get out the SIM card thing. That's what's making it so hard to pull out of the phone. I'm an idiot. Alright, so now I can remove the motherboard from the phone. I did forget to remove the SIM tray earlier, so I guess I'll do that now. I could just push it out from the inside of the phone. And before I set the motherboard aside, I am going to disconnect the front sensors and put them back onto the motherboard. And now we can set this motherboard aside. Now we're going to get to removing a lot of the smaller internal pieces. I'm also going to make sure to remove the S Pen too. Not that this really matters. Alright, so we're going to start by unscrewing the headphone jack down here. And we're going to place this screw to the side. It looks as though the headphone jack may actually be underneath, part of it underneath this motherboard down here, so I'm not going to remove that yet. Instead, I'm going to start removing this motherboard piece down here. So we're going to take out the screws that hold in the charging port. I can now remove this whole entire motherboard piece down here. And up comes the headphone jack with that too. I'll just set that aside. And the rest of this will just come out. There are a few more small pieces that we have to remove before we finish the repair. There's another array of front sensors up at the top here that I have to remove. As you can see, I've removed this step before because I actually ordered a repair screen from the same site for this phone and it ended up having screen burn-in, and I returned it and got another one. So I've done this repair before, so I know what I'm doing. It's just, I have to do it all over again. So, there we go. And I can move this sensor array to the side as well. The last thing, or the last couple of things I have to remove, I believe I have to remove two more things, is this. This is the loudspeaker. So I'm going to take a pair of tweezers, and I could just gently stick those underneath, and here we go. It pops right out. There's a little bit of adhesive though. And after that, the last thing I'm going to need to remove is this vibration motor thing right here. And that also you generally use tweezers for. This one will also be a little hard to remove, but as I said, I've done this before, so mine's relatively easy. Now that I've removed everything that I need to transfer over to the new screen, it's time to bring the new screen over and start attaching those pieces. I want to keep the new screen in as good a condition as possible, so I'm going to put down this little soft thing here so it doesn't get scratched or messed up. I also need to get rid of this piece of tape here. I don't know what it's doing. Alright, so first things first, as you can see, there are a few little, looks like pieces of tape to keep everything secure. And I'm just going to remove these because they aren't going to be needed. Alright, I'm not actually going to take the adhesive out for the battery yet because I want to test everything on the screen to make sure it's fully working. So we're just going to leave some of these adhesive things in. So we're going to start putting things in the order that we took them out. So let's put back in this loudspeaker. It's relatively simple to put back in. You just kind of slide it back in. There we go. Next, let's put back in, oh, well, looks like they included a loudspeaker with the phone. How nice. So I don't have to transfer that over. That's good, actually. So then I'm going to put in the front sensor array that I took out earlier. So just gotta slide that in. Alright, there, all good. Next, we are going to be putting in the charging port and all that stuff, and I'm gonna have to make sure to put this in really well, because last time I did this, I didn't put it in hard enough, and it ended up not being down enough to be able to plug stuff into the phone, being forced down enough, so yeah, make sure we do that. So I'm gonna force that down a little bit, and grab a screw and start screwing it in. Next, let me try and push down the rest of this little assembly here. And I'm going to get the other screw that I took out and put that in to complete this. And next, let's reinstall the headphone jack right here and put in the screw that I took out from that. Alright, so next I can put back in the main motherboard assembly, I believe. And it's really hard to do this because there's a lot of little bits and pieces here that I need to look at, because there's like a lot of little clips that clip onto the motherboard. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that this, because there's a clip that assembles or that attaches this portion of the motherboard, the headphone jack and assembly stuff down there, to the main motherboard. So you have to be able to click that on, and it's all very, very complicated, and you gotta have a lot of patience when doing this. Alright, looks like I did it, thankfully. And then before you put all this back down, you want to make sure all these little pieces are out. So out of the way, and there's one right here, and the last one right here. And then you also got to make sure to fold these front cameras kind of in. The struggle is real. Alright, next we can start clipping things back into place on the motherboard, and these are just like little Lego pieces, as Jerry Rig everything says, so these are quite easy to install. And then I'm going to take my replacement battery out of here, and we're not going to glue it in yet, but we're just going to put it on to make sure everything works. So then I can put back on these little assembly pieces down here. But I'm not going to screw everything in yet, because if something's wrong, I want to make sure I could diagnose that before having to take all these screws out again. And then I'm also going to put back in my SIM card. And then one of the last things I'm going to do for this repair is take off the not wireless charger on the fingerprint sensor from the back plate of the phone. And unlike Apple fingerprint sensors, these are actually replaceable, and you'll regain total functionality. So if you break this on a Samsung phone, you can easily replace it, and they're cheap. They're like $10 or $15. And I'm just going to put that into place here for now. I'm not going to install the new back yet, because as I said, I want to make sure everything's fully working. Alright, so moment of truth, it's time to turn the phone on. Alright, this is already looking a lot better than the other display. I'm not seeing any screen burn whatsoever. And would you look at that, there's like no screen burn, which is actually really good. And I could take this off. Look at that, absolutely no screen burn. Look at that flawless display. Alright, so before we do anything else, let's turn the phone back off, because remember, we have to reinstall the battery completely. And we're also going to have to reinstall the new back. So this will be easy. We just take these parts off again, set them aside. Hey guys, I just realized the video ended, but yeah, so I was able to successfully put in this new battery, and I took out the thing and that was covering up the adhesive and put it in, so that's good. And I guess I won't put that in yet, and then I also need to put in this screw here that I completely forgot to put in earlier, so let's do that. And everything else is looking pretty good, so let's also make sure to plug in the battery, and then also put down this little thing here, because that seems to be coming off. Alright, so next I can put back on these little small pieces, and we can proceed to putting in all of the screws, which is going to suck as it always does, but you know what, whatever. Gotta make sure this clicks down in every little spot. Alright, I've just installed all 16 of those screws, and I'm going to put in this sensor right here, or this fingerprint sensor, and plug that in, because we're going to be putting on the new back now. So this back also comes with adhesive. Hey, get out of here. SIM removal tool. And it looks like it's on completely the whole entire back. So let's start removing that, starting with, I guess, this part right here. Alright, so it's a few days later. I got my new waterproofing seal, and we're going to finish up this repair. And we're 100% sure it's going to work. So let's try this. Not come off. This way. Questioning my life right now. We'll take those. How to do this. I'm going to have to slow this way. I don't feel like it is. From front to side. Try to get them perfectly as I can. Not that is. That's fine. Okay. It's not. Oh, come here. It's not. It's not adhesive. That's not. Okay, so it's not at all. Steady. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. That's not steady. No. This is wrong. That's steady. Just come off. This. That is. Oh, this is part off. Adhesive. Come off. This. Breathe in. Here we go. Come on. Try it down. There we go. Alright. Love it. So that's fine. So we'll make sure it's side. Which should be. And now it is time to put on the back. And I'm not sure if the screen part's supposed to be here still, but Let's hope it is, because, yeah. There we go. Alright, so there you have it. My completely fully restored Note 8. It's in great condition now, which is good. So this did take me a bit, and it cost me a decent amount, but it was worth it because this phone's in brand new condition now. So with that, guys, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and bye-bye.